This Mike Leach edition of the Sports Gambling Podcast is presented by WinBet. Bet $50 at WinBet and get $200 in free bets. Bet big, win bigger with WinBet. Download the WinBet app now or visit wynnbet.com and start winning today. We're also brought to you by Sleeper. You already play fantasy on Sleeper, but now you can win cold hard cash with their over/under game. Just head to sleeper.com/SGP on your phone to join the SGPN group, and Sleeper will automatically match your first deposit up to $100. That's sleeper.com/SGP. And make sure to check out our new Discord server, the perfect place to interact and sweat bets with the entire SGPN crew. Just go to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/Discord.
This is Mike Leach, head football coach at Mississippi State, and you're listening to SGPN. Let it ride.
Cox. He's one of those guys who will get penetration.
Welcome everyone to the Sports Gambling Podcast. I'm Sean, stacking the money green with my partner in picks, Ryan, Real Money Kramer. What's happening, Kramer? Dog.
Oh, Sean. And by the way, Sean is looking extra tropical today. I don't know. There's a glow about him. We're wide here because Colby's in studio with me. Sean's still gallivanting around with the tropical animals down there, and yes. Emergency podcast.
Pura vida, Mai, joining us to talk college football. Colby Dant, aka the Dantabase. I don't know if we could bring the Dantabase down here. I feel like the salt water might corrode some of the parts. It would. Can you survive down by the tropical area, Dantabase?
Well, I'm from the land down under. All right. So look, I got to get married in Colombia in like second time. I get married twice.
Oh my goodness.
So I expect the keys to that house wherever you're at, and
it's funny. I'm going to pull back the curtain for a second because we were. It was news to Colby where Costa Rica was on a map, not as close to Colombia as he expected.
I mean, my geography. I mean, look, I knew it was in the vicinity. I just didn't know which. I mean, shit. I never been down there. I would love. Hey,
he's looking around Chile, Argentina.
No, I was not. I was not looking around Argentina.
It's called show business, Colby.
Buddy. Look, you talk a lot of shit here. Let's.
They don't have college
show
football
you a globe.
down
I would love to. I will get you on some spots exactly where it was. All right. So I was in the vicinity. I just wasn't sure exactly where the hell it was.
College football,
See,
not yet in South America.
When I leave the office, no one is there to record the heated debates between Kramer and Colby. I'm the peacemaker in the office. You would think I'd be the antagonist, but really, I'm the one. I'm the referee telling Kramer and Colby to get back to their corners, touch gloves.
Can we get an SGPN globe?
Yeah. I mean, we can put dots everywhere we've been. I certainly would be happy to enter in any sort of geography competition with you.
Yeah. Well, that's why I was confused, is because I used an internet map. All right. If I used a globe, I was fire. All right. I was absolute fire.
even maps, Colby prefers analog. All right. As always, we are brought to you by WinBet. Bet big, win bigger. Head over to winbet.com or download that Win betting app. $50 wager turns into $200 in free bets. That's pretty awesome. Of course, they have that sweet ultimate fantasy football experience where every $500 you bet on sports or casino before July 31st, you're automatically entered to win the ultimate fantasy football draft experience at the Encore Beach Club. 2-night stay at the Wynn Resorts for you and your entire league. So again, maybe someone from our SGPN Dynasty League should enter that in. Maybe we'll all win a sweet trip there. Again, download that WinBet app or head over to wynnbet.com to get started today. Offer subject to change. Terms and conditions at winbet.com. Must be 21 or older and present in the state where playthrough WinBet is available. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem, call 1-800-522-4700. And we're also brought to you by Sleeper. That's right. Sleeper is one of the fastest fantasy growing fantasy platforms today with millions of players. Again, you already probably have a league there. I know we have our dynasty league on there. And again, Sleeper for fantasy, but now their new over under game. That's right. Just click the over under tab. Deposit using the promo code SGP. You get 100% deposit bonus up to $100. And then you can get down on these sweet parlayed player props. MLB Game on Podcast guys have you covered for a ton of picks. You can win 2x all the way up to 20x. All you got to do, go to sleeper.com/SGP, sleeper.com/SGP. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Joining us on the line, friend of the program, head football coach over at Mississippi State, Mr. Mike Leach. Coach Leach, thanks for coming on the show. Got to ask you, UCLA and USC leaving the Pac-12. It feels like super conferences are coming to college football. What are your thoughts?
Well, I'm befuddled like everybody else. I'm just I can't help but sit here and think about what the plane ride is like from Los Angeles to Rutgers or Rutgers to Los Angeles. And now keep in mind, those guys in the traditional Big Ten are short flights from one another. And they each have to do, not even every year, they have to do the long flight to Los Angeles like every other year, and not even that often. And then in LA, they're each going to have to do it 5 times. So it's going to be interesting. I'm not saying it won't be exciting, it won't be fun to watch. But the other thing is when it comes to this, and I think that the Pac-12, and I love the Pac-12. I love being at Washington State. I love the Palouse. I love the Cougs, all of it. But I did think that the Pac-12 was mismanaged when I was there by the conference. And then, as time goes on, it's proven correct. And, and so I think that, and that's unfortunate because, there's a lot of people there that, committed and dedicated a lot
it does seem like this could be this could be tough for college, like small college football towns that aren't a part of that haven't found their spot yet in the big super conferences like Pullman, like obviously coached at Lubbock. Are you worried that some of these smaller schools might be left out when we finish aligning these super conferences?
I'm worried about a couple things. One is what you just said, that teams will get left out. And so I'm worried about that. The other thing I'm worried about, because there's a lot of knee-jerk reactions and, that are based on kind of ambition and just sort of impetuous decisions. And anytime universities attached to anything, there's kind of the false notion that these things are carefully thought out and it's just one brilliant thing after the next. and hopefully they prove that it is. Hopefully they prove that this is a brilliant decision, because there's a lot of great players and great coaches at USC and UCLA and the Big Ten. And hopefully this proves to be. But from my experience, you go to these committee meetings and a portion are seriously engaged. A portion would rather not be there, just want it over. And a portion are 1 foot in, 1 foot out. And pretty soon, there will be an assertive voice or two that'll carry the committee and they'll make a decision. And you hope that assertive voice is on track and it's a wise decision. And then but if you think all these are brilliant ideas, I mean, just think back to when, and this was in about 2010, when for about 8 months, Boise State and TCU were in the Big East. It wasn't like they'd applied or they talked about. No, they were in the Big East, and that lasted however many months it lasted, and then they were out. So.
Now, Do you think this? Do you think this could lead? You've always been an advocate for a much larger college football playoff, even advocating for 64 teams, something big. Do you think this super conference realignment could help lead us to a bigger college football playoff?
I hope so, and I'm optimistic that it will. I mean, there's more talk about it than there ever was before, and I think that you need at least 16 teams. But I've always been a playoff guy, and I think you could incorporate the bowls. You could easily incorporate the bowls. Nobody'd be at the bowl site as long, but they know how to put on big games, and I think it'd be great fun for everybody. Just like, and I say this over and over to the point where it's redundant, but I've traveled around the country and even the world. You'll run into somebody with the Gonzaga jacket. Now I don't know exactly what Gonzaga means. I'll be the first to tell you that.
Still don't know.
I mean, is it a guy's name or what? I'm not sure, but I do know it's in Spokane, which puts me ahead of a lot of people. And so I'll walk up to the guy in the Gonzaga jacket. Hey, so are you from Spokane? The guy will go, no, where's Spokane? And then I'll say, well, you got that Gonzaga State jacket on. Well, and he's a big Gonzaga State fan. The reason he became a big Gonzaga State fan is because of the exposure that they got in the NCAA tournament, and it engages people all over the country and even the world, where they get really excited, and it exposes these teams to all kinds of competition and things like that. And I think people would have an incredible time. And then I think whatever playoff format you have, you want everybody to get 12 games. And if you have an expanded format, maybe you have to cut one or two off the regular season. But I think the target number of games, though, for the champion is 16.
Now, if Washington State somehow joins the SEC or aligns themselves to a bigger conference, do we expect Bigfoot to align himself to a different region of the country to follow the program?
Well, Bigfoot's overcome a lot of obstacles, and one thing that's the best thing I've seen on Bigfoot says, if I don't believe in myself, nobody else will. And so the fact that Bigfoot's made it this far, I imagine he can get in front of a television set, which would allow him to check it out anywhere,
Well, and that was the concern, right? Like, there's no way that there is going to be a super conference laden college football landscape where Bigfoot's not in the super conference. So I know we're worried about Pullman.
Well, there's a lot of places that try to claim Bigfoot, but I think Pullman comes by it far more honestly.
I agree, and I think if anything, maybe that's the carrot in Pullman's hat to keep them afloat in the tumultuous times right now we got going on in college football.
Well, at these schools, they're looking for leverage.
In our building, so we had a great booster, a guy named Wade Hogue, bought a Bigfoot costume, and it's like, I don't know, 7.5 feet tall. And so we put a frame in it, and it was they put it over the frame, so it looked like a Bigfoot, and it was on this roller thing. And our offices were right in the middle of campus, so all the students walking by would see it. And we would move Bigfoot around to different windows so they'd think he was walking around the building. And we figured we'd seize on Bigfoot right away and give the University of Washington the Artesians,
Exactly. Taking a quick break. We'll get back to Mike Leach in just a second. Before we do that, shout out to Trade Coffee. Oh man, I'm down in Costa Rica, just enjoying a bunch of amazing coffee. Colombia, which again, right next door to Costa Rica, they also have a ton of great coffee. Now, whether you're a coffee snob, I know Colby, you're a big coffee guy, right?
Big by default. I married into coffee,
You married into coffee royalty. Again, I'm down in Costa Rica. Like, if you're a gambler and you don't love coffee, I don't know what your problem is. Get that heart going and oh man, Trade Coffee has some amazing coffee and I think it's delicious. The reason is they dial it in right to my taste. You start off by taking a coffee quiz. So they match a specific batch of coffee to your specific coffee palate. Trade has delivered over 5 million bags of fresh coffee with more than 750,000 positive reviews. Right now, Trade is offering a new subscribers total of $30 off your first order plus free shipping. All you got to do is go to drinktrade.com/SGP. That's more than 40 cups of coffee for free. Get started by taking their quiz over at drinktrade.com/SGP and let Trade find you a coffee that you'll love. That's drinktrade.com/SGP for $30 off. And as always, we're also brought to you by IP Vanish, the lead pipe lock. When it comes to internet security, perfect for using on streaming devices like Fire Stick. You can actually use your account on unlimited devices. Doesn't slow you down. We use it in our SGPN studio. Even got IP Vanish set up down here in the Costa Rican compound. So again, IP Vanish, unlimited devices, doesn't sacrifice speed, keeps your data truly private, truly secure. Highly recommended. And the price, you can't beat it. 70% off when you use our code. All you got to do is go to ipvanish.com/SGP. That's ipvanish.com/SGP. And we're back with more Mike Leach. We're talking animals and real animals like Bigfoot. Colby was telling us before the show that you, is it true you once had a pet raccoon?
A what?
A pet raccoon? Is that true?
Yeah, I did. His name was Billbo Baggins.
Oh.
Yeah, I'd read the Hobbit. I read the Hobbit when I was pretty young, but probably like 6th grade. I think I had the raccoon when I was in about 7th, 8th grade.
How'd that happen though? How do you just get a pet raccoon?
There was a guy, found a stray baby raccoon, and he was, still on milk and that type of thing. And that guy lived in town. We lived out of town on 10 acres. Free raccoon, got the cage too. So we took the raccoon and nursed him with a bottle for a while. And then after a while, now a raccoon will eat anything. So they're easy to feed, anything from cat food, dog food to leftovers, And no, the raccoon would run around the yard, with we'd let him out of his cage, put him in there at night, mainly to protect him, from a coyote or a fox or something. But since he was small, but he'd run around the yard with the cats and the dogs, and they got along pretty nicely. Oh,
do you ever walk a pet raccoon?
Raccoons love shiny objects. Two things: raccoons love shiny objects, and they can get anywhere because they're kind of small and awkward looking, but they're not awkward. They can climb anything.
They got the thumbs.
They have thumbs.
They got thumbs.
Yeah, they do. He'd climb in the cupboard, and he'd see the shiny pots and pans, and you'd hear just a loud crash as he's shoving them, pulling them out of the shelf on the floor because he wants to play with the shiny stuff. And he'd sit in the middle of those pots and pans, and he'd love just hypnotized.
And your mom and dad were just okay with that clutter going on all night.
Initially no, but then there was a time when if the raccoon was kind of underfoot or whatever, she'd pull out a pot or a pan, like one, and put it in the dishwasher afterwards, but pull out a pot or pan. And part of it was to keep him out of the cupboard getting the others, but set one on the floor and, let him have a big time with it.
So outside of the dog and cat now and the raccoon, what would be the next pet then that you would own? Because I'm very curious on the answer here.
Well, I love labs, and we had mostly labs. And then I thought about getting one. The trouble is I travel a lot. When you travel, that dog gets stuck in a kennel or something. And but I do have plenty of space for one. I've thought about getting a lab, but I have not. And I'm near a lake where you could get one of those ball throwers, and he'd get plenty of exercise because I'd sling it out in that lake, and he'd have to swim for each ball, which he would.
I've always heard
he'd be in shape. And then But yeah,
I've always heard a pig is a great pet. You know, like I saw someone walking in LA, like in Manhattan Beach, with a pig recently, and I watched the Forensic Files where like a woman in Minnesota got her house broken into, and the pig bit the guy's leg off, the guy who broke in, and then the guy needed to call 911. So
I feel like if you're in the SEC West, though, you can't have a pig around.
That's true.
That's true.
I apologize there, right?
Well, I'll tell you, I know 3 people that have had pigs, and one lady had a couple of them, and it was one of those Vietnamese pot-bellied pigs, and they're really smart. And I've known a couple other. And they thought those pigs were outstanding, you know. And then I can't remember how they fed them. You can feed them a lot of stuff, whether they went to the produce section, whatever's being thrown away or whatever. But anyway, no, I guess they're pretty smart, and then they'll, you know, fairly responsive and stuff like that. Yeah, I'd like to have a pig. I thought about a goat for a little while, but you have to keep them pinned up. They say if you're not careful, sometimes those goats will climb right on your car, and pretty soon it'll look like you've been in a hailstorm.
Well, and I was actually in Los Angeles with the family at the mall, the Americana in Glendale. Shout out to the American. Yeah, and a guy was just walking around shopping with a bird on his shoulder. I know you're a big pirate guy, Coach. I mean, is a bird in the realm of pet possibilities for you?
You know, I thought about that too. You get into the parrots and the macaws, and shoot, they live as long as people do, and that's a pretty long-term relationship. The other thing with birds, I you know, I wasn't too fired up about cleaning their cage.
Yeah.
The other, they say with the birds, they you know, they pick a person. That's their person. They pick a person. That's their person. And sometimes they're standoffish to the others. I don't know really the extent of it. I haven't thought about a bird for a while, but wouldn't rule it out.
A bird's always in the mix. Yeah. And you could train the bird. You could, I mean, some of the birds are super intelligent as far as like the stuff they can remember and their grasp of the language.
I've never seen a coach with a bird on his shoulder during a college football game.
On the sideline, ultimate intimidation.
I'd have to get a bigger bird because I got a cat. He'd have to be able to hold his own with the cat. But hey, my brother had a bird. Or a parrot, one of those green ones, and the parrot was, you know, they grew up in a bar or whatever, you know, was owned by these bar owners. So the parrot swore all the time, and then and the parrot liked my brother better than his wife, and this parrot used to wander around the house every morning. His wife thought the parrot was possessed. And because the parrot would talk in a real creepy parrot voice, you know, and her name was Lisa. Lisa, can the little bird come in? Let the little bird in, you know. And then and the bird would literally, from what I understand, coax her to touch him, and then he'd try to bite her, you know, just kind of lure her in, you know. Now, Tim,
I read about
Tim,
this.
He loved Tim.
Oh, that's savage.
I read about this divorce case where a couple was getting divorced and they were trying to figure out custody of their parent. And one of the things they had in the settlement was, okay, we're going to split time with the parrot. The one concession is you can't teach the parrot to say negative things about the other person. They actually had that written in the divorce settlement.
I tell you, they would. I mean, they would, from what I understand. And then the brief time I spent with my brother's bird, which wasn't much, and you know, and like I say, the bird loved Tim. That bird didn't care for me really, but no, he would get that parrot swearing and say some like bar type of phrases and things.
A swashbuckling parrot, love it.
No, that would be, I mean, you talk about having one on the sideline. That would be great to figure out one to, like, ferry in the plays to the player, from your shoulder, fly in, drop off some plays over to Will Rogers.
Wake Forest may need that after Louisville, that Louisville WikiLeaks thing.
I was going to say, right? No one's stealing the plays from the parrot.
Well, I don't know. Shoot, with my luck, that parrot would tell the other team the plays.
Parrot's working for both sides.
He would be a rat of a player.
Well, speaking of the other sides, I mean, we would be remiss to not talk a little football, coach. And Nick Saban and Jimbo made a little news earlier in the offseason. I guess as a rival of these coaches, do you just sit back, grab the popcorn, and enjoy that they're taken away from maybe their thoughts on the field, or is this just nothing more than an off-season charade?
Pretty much. I mean, they're both frustrated to a point because, this name, image, and likeness in the portal as it currently stands is unsustainable. I mean, it's literally unsustainable. If you want to, just for fun, go up to an NFL guy and tell him that, okay, hey, new rules for your league. Yeah, we're going to make it more like college. So you're going to have unmitigated free agency 24/7, 365 days a year. And by the way, your guys, instead of just playing, are going to go around trying to find financial deals, which leads to a bidding war. So instead of the teams having a salary cap, you're going to have a bidding war. And just stop and wait a few seconds. Definitely keep your eyes trained on their face, because it's going to change.
You say it's unsustainable, and I agree. It feels like some form of regulation or something has to come into play. Yeah. What do you think ultimately we end up? Where do we end up with the NIL as it stands and the portal?
I hope they get it fixed. I know what I would do. Unless somebody comes up with a better idea, and they certainly might. Because it took me about 3 days to come up with mine. And I'm not saying it's perfect. What I would do is, first of all, right now, they have all the benefits of being a pro, but none of the responsibility. And there's a lot of responsibility that goes with that. So just think back when you were 18, and all of a sudden, you have $100,000. Okay. What's your behavior pattern going to be like for the next couple months, And I guess some of these people forget what it's like to be 18. The other thing is, I do think that we need to keep the degree part of the equation, because I think that enhances people, their families, their futures, society. And but what I would do, and I think if there's the responsibility to being a pro, then it's less attractive. And they're reasonable responsibilities. And I think a number of players would want to be a traditional college scholarship guy, because most guys aren't going to get much NIL money. I mean, it's going to be a few key players. So have a deal where, all right, you can come to college and you can be on scholarship. You're an amateur student athlete. You get the scholarship, all the stipends, grants that go along with it. If you play out your eligibility and graduate, when you're done with your eligibility and graduation, you get a check. I don't know what the amount, say $150,000. They give you a check for $150,000. If you transfer, you're no longer eligible for the $150,000. Okay. And if you don't get your degree, you're not. Okay. And then the other category are those that come in as pros. Okay. So you're a pro. Okay. We put your name on the list. Next guy's a pro. We put his name on the list. Next guy. Okay. So you have a list and a pool of all the guys that are coming in as pros. Okay. And, okay. And so then, with regard to the pros, then you have a draft, the Division I universities draft from the list of pros. and none of this stuff. Just like it is in any other league, you get drafted. Okay, now your pros you can trade. Okay, so say I need a lineman, and I have a pretty good receiver. He's a pro. Well, we need the lineman more, so we trade the receiver to New Mexico for a lineman. And also the pros you can cut. If they don't play well, you cut them, and you pay the walk-on that played ahead of him anyway. And because that's what pros do. They get drafted, they get traded, they get cut. Okay, pros are allowed to get all the money that they can. It's it's on them with regard to name, image, and likeness. And and then you have a window for when the pros can seek free agency.
That
just
sounds
like the NFL. It's a brief period of time, and then I think that would solve an awful lot. And then,
100%.
And once in a while, I tell this to people, they give me the shocked look. Okay, I went up to this guy that was a good baseball player, involved in the NCAA. He says, "You can't do that. You can't take a kid from this place and put him to that place." And I go, and he played minor league baseball. I go, they did it to you.
Yeah.
They did it to you.
Yeah. Once you become employee, the dynamic changes.
And the rest of the conversation is about all the wild trips he took on a bus going to the various places he was traded. Now I say we put him on a plane instead of a bus, but that's what pros do.
Oh man.
And the thing is, in the NFL, you don't hear about their name, image, and likeness, like some safety for like the Eagles or something. He might have a local tire deal, but it's not going to fall when he gets traded to the Raiders.
That's a good point.
And then, if they have a national deal, that's different. But we're sitting here talking about, all these endorsement deals that 18-year-olds have, and we're not talking about any that the NFL has, because they don't have very many. Because you know why? Because they and some are national. Like some of the guys like Brady or Aaron Rodgers. Okay, but because they could be traded, cut, and they get drafted.
Yeah. Hey, Coach. Question for you. Yeah, I don't know if you saw on the 4th of July, but Joey Chestnut downed 63 hot dogs in a food eating contest and won. He did that in 10 minutes. Does that make him an athlete? A, and also, what food would you choose for eating in a contest like that?
Well, I don't think I'd be in a contest like that. That is a remarkable feat. I mean, I don't know how the guy does it, and I would like some doctor to explain how this is possible, because I have a hard time figuring that out. I mean, it's almost like the guy's part boa constrictor, and then, boy, isn't that I mean, how in the world do you do that? And then, it's one thing to get it all in, but getting it all out, that's got to be kind of they could have a contest in that too, I'd imagine.
Oh, man, but
I don't know if they'd have it at Coney Island, or at least might be tough to put it up on stage.
I just wonder if does that require athletic ability? It might, right?
I
don't know. I'll tell you what, he's got a unique talent, and he can do things that other people can't.
100%. All right, Coach, we know you're out there in the Keys enjoying your time off. Well deserved. Good luck with the season, and appreciate your time as always.
We got our cowbells too.
All right. That's outstanding.
Appreciate you, and looking forward to the season, Coach. Thanks again.
All right. Thanks so much for having me on.
Thanks as always to Coach Mike Leach. Awesome interview. As always, make sure you subscribe to the College Football Experience. Colby's giving out all his 131 college football team previews. We got a ton of NFL content coming at you on the Sports Gambling Podcast. Subscribe, rate, review, take a screenshot of you submitting an Apple Podcast review, submit it on the SGPN app. Again, all that is free. Get you a chance to win some free gear, aka Merch Monday. We got some new Madden t-shirts available at the merch store. Just go to store.sportsgamblingpodcast.com. Kramer, hit it.
Thank you for participating in the Sports Gambling Podcast.
For the Sports Gambling Podcast, I'm Sean, stacking the money green. He is Ryan.
God bless Coach Leach.
Kramer. Let it ride.